I never went to buy things used, but that old camera caught my attention in a street fair near home. It was a Polaroid SX70, all in brown leather and metal, with an air of things that had already seen a lot of history. The seller, a lean guy with back-eyed, said he was special and charged me only 20 reis. I thought I had done a huge deal, you know? I took it home that Saturday afternoon, cleaned her carefully, and put a new movie that I bought online. My plan was simple. Take some pictures of the street at night, since I work on the dawn shift in a bar and always found the city more alive in that silence. The first picture came out normal, only the pole of the corner shining weak in the mist. But then the clock scored 3:33, and everything changed. I tested the camera again, pointing to dark windows from the building in front. The flash fired, the engine buzzed, and the photo slid out. When the image brightened, my stomach frozen. There was a figure there, stopped in the corner of the street, looking straight at me. It was no one I had seen live. I swear, the street was empty. He was a tall, skinny man with black overcoat, his face half blurry, as if the camera could not focus properly. The worst, he looked like an echo of someone I already knew, but could not remember who. I kept the picture in a drawer, trying to convince myself that it was just a defect in the movie. But I knew it wasn't. That night, I slept with the light on. I didn't want to move the camera anymore, but curiosity is a treacherous thing. The next day, I stayed up to 3:33 again, just to test. This time, I pointed into my apartment, to the corner of the room where the TV reflects the light of the pole outside. The flash blinked, the picture came out, and I almost knocked her on the floor. There he was again, the man from Overcoat, but now indoors, near the kitchen door. The face was still blurred, but I could see that he held something in his hand, a small object, which I could not identify. My heart shot, and I checked every corner of the apartment with a knife in my hand, sweating cold. There was no one. The door was locked, the windows closed. But the photo didn't lie, and I started to feel that it wasn't just a chance. At the bar, during the shift, I showed the photos to Jairo, the cook who always stays with me until the end of the night. He took the images and frowned, his fingers squeezing the roll as if it bothered him physically. "This is not normal, man. I've heard of cameras that capture things we don't see." Before I could answer, we heard a noise in the back aisle, a long creak, as if someone had leaning against the metal door. The bar was closed for customers by that time, and only both of us should be there. Jairo dropped the photos at the counter and went to the door, peering through the matte glass. "Is there anyone there?" he called, but the only answer was another low sound, a dry click, almost a snap. I froze. It was the same sound the camera made before spitting a photo. When the clock scored 3:33 at work, I took the camera again, almost unintentionally. I took a picture of the empty counter, and there it came, Polaroid spitting the paper. This time the man was closer, almost by my side, and the object in his hand seemed a key that I recognized. That key in the photo was identical to what I lost a few months ago, one that opened the basement of the house where I grew up. I hadn't thought of that place for years. The house was sold after my mother died, and I never came back. But seeing that in his hand made me feel a shiver that climbed the back of the neck. How could he have something of mine? And why was it appearing in the photos? I put the camera in my backpack and tried to focus on work, cleaning glasses and sweeping the floor, but my head wouldn't stop. Every noise in the bar, the wind hitting the window, the freezer zumming looked louder, more wrong. When I got home, it was almost dawn, and I locked the door with tremendous hands. I didn't sleep. The next day, I went to the market to buy coffee, trying to keep the routine not to freak out. But then I saw a black car parked across the street, the same one that had already appeared near the bar about twice that week. I couldn't see who was inside because of the dark glass, but I felt a weight in my chest, as if someone watched me. At 3:33, I couldn't resist and took another picture, this time from my room window. The man from the overcoat was out there on the sidewalk, looking up, straight to me. But now his face was clearer, and I swear it looked like my Uncle Claudio, which disappeared when I was a child. The key was still in his hand, and behind, blurred, had the outline of a door I knew very well, the basement. I started to hyperventilate. The air didn't go down well. I could no longer ignore that. Uncle Claudio had disappeared on a winter night when I was about 8, and my mother never explained it right. I just said he left, but I took her crying with the police on the phone weeks later. The basement of the house was his corner, full of tools, paint cans, and boxes that he locked the key. I never went down there, but the smell of mold and the creak of the door still haunt me. Seeing him in the pictures, holding that key, it was as if the past had come back to catch me. I took the phone and looked on the internet about cursed old cameras. I found a forum talking about a Polaroid that showed what no one saw, and a guy saying that the seller disappears after the purchase. I tried to call my father, who lives for a couple of hours from here, and his voice came out, but sharp when I mentioned his uncle. "Stop moving it," he said, and hung up in my face, leaving me with his heart in his hand. I decided to burn the photos to end that. I took them all, the street, from the bar, from my room, and threw an old ashtray in the backyard, the fire rising fast as the paper snaps. For a second, I thought it was free, but the smell of burnt plastic was in the air, and my cell phone vibrated. It was Jairo, from the bar, sending a message. "The black car is here again, man." It stopped in front, and I heard a click inside him. My blood froze, and then I heard the click behind me. I turned around, and the camera was on the backyard table, where I swear I didn't leave it. The flash shot alone, blinding me, and the photo fell to the floor. In her, Uncle Claudio was there with me, a few meters, his pale face and his eyes back, and the black car appeared in the background. I shouted and ran inside, locking everything with tremendous hands. I spent the rest of the night shrunk on the couch, with a knife in my hand and the cell phone next door, waiting for the day to dawn. The silence of the dawn was broken only by my heart beating too loudly in the ears. Each shadow on the wall seemed to move. Every creak of the house turned a step. I didn't know what was happening, but I felt that Uncle Claudio, or whatever it was surrounding me. The camera was out there in the backyard, but I didn't have the courage to catch her. When the sun finally rose, I felt a little safer, as if the light could push it away. But the relief was short-lived. On the floor near the back door had a new photo, one that I didn't take. In it, I was sleeping on the couch and he was standing beside me. I dropped my job at the bar that same morning. I couldn't take it out at night, not after that. I went to my father's house, almost without stopping to breathe, and knocked on his door like crazy. He opened, with the face of those who have not slept for days, and let me in without saying much. I told everything, the camera, the photos, Uncle Claudio, the key. He was quiet, looking to the floor until he took a box under the bed and opened. Inside there were old, yellowish, hand-written letters. "His uncle didn't disappear," he said, his voice shaking. "He was taken, and he warned me that he was going back to pick up someone." My stomach turned inside out, and I could barely ask what he meant before hearing a noise outside, the snoring of a black car stopping on the street. I ran to the window, the curtains shaking in my hands, and saw the black car parked right in front of my father's house. The dark glass reflected the morning sun, but I knew there was someone inside, looking at me. My father pulled me by the arm, almost dragging me to the kitchen, and locked the back door. "They so behind you now," he said, his wide eyes with dread. He threw the cards on the table and I took one. The lyrics were from Uncle Claudio, saying that the basement keeps the deal and that someone in the family would have to pay. My father confessed that he knew it for years, but never told me to protect me. Only now, with the camera, I had called them unintentionally back. My chest squeezed so much that I thought I was going to pass out. We left the side door, running to his car in the backyard. I didn't know where to go, but anywhere was better than staying there. As he drove, I looked at the rearview mirror and saw the black car following us slowly, as if I was no hurry. At 3:33 in the afternoon, I know because I looked at the panel's clock. My father stopped at a red light. The silence in the car was heavy, as if the air itself had thickened. It was then that I heard the click. I turned slowly, my heart hammering my chest. The camera was in the back seat, even though I made sure I left her in the backyard. Before I could touch it, the flash shot alone, flashing like a radius inside the car. The photo slid out. My hands trembled as I caught her. In it, Uncle Claudio was sitting well between us in the back seat. The face so close that I could see his eyes empty, black, like holes. But the worst was to notice the details in the background. In the reflection of the window, there were other figures. Many of them, flats without shape, real estate spectra, surrounding the car. I shouted, and my dad accelerated, the car jumping forward. From the rearview mirror, I saw the black car glued behind us, the engine snoring mixed with a sound that looked whispers. We arrived on a dirt road. It was already night, and my father's car died out of nowhere, the engine choking before erasing completely. The panel got dark. My father turned the key, cursing low, but nothing happened. And then the silence came. The crickets stopped. The wind ceased. Even our breath seemed to decrease. I looked at the rearview mirror and saw the black car stopped a few meters back. The headlights were erased, but something inside it moved. The click sounded. The camera was on my lap. I didn't even see her get there. The flash exploded in the darkness, and the photo slid out. With trembling hands, I turned the image. We both in the car, yes. But now Uncle Claudio was outside, leaving the black car. Behind him, dozens of shadows with blurred faces, twisting as if his own night was alive. My throat closed. "The basement awaits you," a low voice whispered in my ear. I turned so fast that I almost fell. The back seat was empty, but the window glass now had a mark, the mark of a long, thin hand, as if someone had leaning against seconds before. "Dad, we need to get out of here," I shouted, pulling his arm. But he didn't react. The eyes circled in nothing, the cold skin. The steps on the earth began to come. Several, fast, almost on top of me. We drove for hours aimlessly, my father's car shaking on the dirt road as I tried not to look at the rearview mirror. He no longer spoke, the white fingers on the wheel, his pale face as if he already knew what came. I held the photo, the sweaty fingers, without the courage to throw it out, afraid of what could happen. The black car disappeared for a few minutes, but it came back, always there. A shadow in the mirror that didn't let go. The cold rose down my legs, the air in the car getting heavy, and I looked at the back seat empty, but I felt him there, his weight suffocating me. The camera fell to the floor, clicked alone, and the picture came out. Me running on the road, Uncle Claudio behind, the key shining in his hand. The next photo will show me dead, I thought, and the steps on the earth got higher, almost echoing inside me.